Hi, welcome to Dazzliest, Learning the Language of Autism. My name is Belle Barroway, and this week I'm going to be talking a little bit about the language that we use, that neurotypical people use around autistic people. Children and adults, doesn't matter. And how sometimes, even without realizing what we're doing, can affect them in a negative way. I'm learning as I go too, and I've learned so much, especially over the last couple of years, about stuff I didn't realize, the words I was using or the phrases that perhaps I'd learned from professionals or read in books in the past, and just how in the last few years, neurodiverse groups are, really educating the world for the better, I think, in accepting neurodiversity in all of us, not just autism, but all of us, and understanding that we all think and feel in different ways, and that is okay, and that to be different, to be unique, to be individual is something that I think each and every single one of us on the planet, wants to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be understood. Do we want to be judged? Do we want to be deemed as a problem, or something that needs to be changed or cured or eradicated? For each one of us, if we heard that kind of language around us, how would we feel? And just because a person has a difference or a label that's deemed as a disability, I think doesn't give anybody the right to see them as less than. That's up to that individual person with that condition. They can speak about themselves how they choose, just like we all can. But I just feel it's worth saying in this little short video, just to be mindful of the language that we're using when we are around our autistic children or the people that we care for, and adults, whether we're parents, whether we're family members, whether we're professionals, it matters not. We always need to be mindful of their feelings, and how they hear themselves spoken about is how they will begin to view themselves. And when that's done en masse, especially from the people in your family that are your safety and your security, and who you go to feel safe, I don't know where that leaves you to go, to find that one place where you are fully accepted, even with the challenges, even with the difficulties, even with the sometimes when you think as a parent that you have no idea what to do, and that you're running out of energy and steam. There is still room for honour and being respectful. So I've written just a few little tips. It's just a little video really, because it's such a big subject, but I kind of just want to touch on it a little bit at a time. I think across time, various people I've met in my life and things I've seen myself, when humans meet other humans that are, say, hearing impaired, or are in a wheelchair, or have some kind of disability of any way, shape or form, if they're nonverbal or whatever, and you see people often, I remember when I was younger, that people tend to shout and think that that person is stupid or needs to be shouted, and you need to speak louder so that they understand you, and because they don't know what else to do. And I'm hoping that now in 2019 we're kind of learning that nobody needs to be shouted at and spoken to like they need to be spoken to in that way. But I've still seen it. I've seen it in professionally. I've seen it with all children of of all genres, and just how we speak about children. Let's just start with children first, where we kind of feel that they're not listening, or they're busy doing something else, or they're playing, or they're engrossed, and that may well be the case. But we've all been children. We all know what it's like to be children. And we all know that actually we hear more than our parents and our carers think we do. And it can sink in, and it can affect us deeply in a negative way. Just like if we're spoken about, positively and lovingly and encouraged and accepted and not judged, then and if there's something that we've done that is sort of socially unacceptable, that rather than being shamed for that behavior, we're kind of like, know that we're still loved, but the behavior is explained, and we're given different perspectives. And that's a different type of discipline to just shaming somebody or talking about someone as if they're not in the room. So, things like hearing professional people, I've heard talk about the people that they are, their job, who they're caring for, whose responsibility they are for that day. And sometimes it's words and things and phrases that are just so, they don't even realise what they're saying is negative, because it's like everyday language that they hear. So I'll just label some now. Things like low functioning. Are you low functioning or high functioning autistic? Now, can you imagine if you were asked that as a human being? Like, hi Belle, are you a high functioning human? Or are you a low functioning human? And how rude you may think that is to be asked that. That's basically, in my mind, is saying, are you stupid or are you intelligent? And intelligence and stupidity is, each to their own, is each and every person has their own perspective on what that is anyway. So it's not even a thing in my mind. But nevertheless, it's said. And I have, before I even spoke to any autistic people about those particular labels of high functioning, low functioning, and when, our son was born and we realised he was autistic, and I started reading stuff about high functioning and low functioning, and I just thought, what? Really? What, just high functioning, low functioning? That's it? That's all you've got to tell me about it? They're the only two categories. That's it. We all got to fit into that. And I just started thinking, I don't like that. That makes me feel uncomfortable. And I wasn't really sure why, but I just knew in my heart it wasn't right. And, I think the reason why they're so damaging is, one, for low functioning labelled people, I guess if you're nonverbal, from what I was told and what I've read, you're deemed as low functioning. That's just one aspect of a low functioning label. And, my son is nonverbal. And I would say, and I'm sure that the people that know him would agree, he's far from low functioning. He's a very high functioning, a very vibrant and intelligent human being. You just have to look and listen and see and hear in a different way to, maybe make a bit more effort to get to know him, because he doesn't make it easy, because he doesn't speak. And when I say he doesn't make it easy, I'm not blaming him for that. I'm just saying that generally people can be lazy, and often non-verbal people get left behind. They get spoken about in front of them as if, well, they can't talk back, or maybe if they can't talk, maybe they don't think about things too much, or I don't know. I don't understand, but it's just something to bear in mind, that these labels that were big in diagnosis, a few years back, and even maybe some now, I would challenge it as a parent, as a carer, and say, if you're told that from a professional, like, what do you mean by that? I want details. And, and because I myself, okay, I use myself as an example, I'm not really very good with mathematical stuff. I can do basic, but it's not my thing. It's not my thing at all. And I could say that would view myself as pretty low functioning when it comes to mathematical skills. I would say that I'm high functioning, and I'm just using these labels just to give you examples, in things like emotional awareness of myself and people. I'm quite intuitive. I'm quite high functioning in intuition and kindness and compassion. And I like writing stories and putting things across. I think I'm quite good at that when I write and stuff, and lots of other things. And then there's other things that I'm kind of medium functioning in, and that can fluctuate from day to day, from month to month, depending on whether I'm feeling poorly or whether I'm happier or I'm not feeling so great that day. All these things fluctuate and change. Neurodiverse in my mind and my brain is constantly moving around. I'm not one thing at any one time, and one thing doesn't stay that way all the way through my life. And it's the same for all people, and especially those who are autistic. Like, if you're autistic and you are deemed as high functioning, and it's written and it's stamped, for those that haven't got a lot of awareness of autism, and for those people that are caring for those people, what can tend to happen is they have very high expectations. And so you'll hear things being said like, "Oh, come on, you're not that autistic. You could do that yesterday, and you're really good at doing that. So, you can talk very eloquently. So why are you now having problems with that?" And it confuses the very people that have created the label. And the person who's been given that label is like, "Well, I didn't give myself that label, so I don't know why you're so surprised. Like, you have created that monster. You have said that I'm high functioning, so therefore you expect me to be high functioning all the time." And the fact is that there are some things on some days at certain times, and it will change depending, that I am not so able to cope with at this particular time. And then the opposite end of the thing is for those that are labelled low functioning. What can happen is that the expectations for them are very low, and so they are, limited by other people's opinion of that label. So it's like, "Oh, well, they're low functioning, so therefore we can talk about them in front of them," or, "Oh, they're never going to mount to much," or, "Oh, it's always going to stay like that," or, "They're never going to be able to do this, and this because they're low functioning." And it's such a sweeping statement, and it's such a restricting label to give somebody at any age, but especially when you're a child and you're given that. It's like you're stamping it on their head. You're a low functioning. Boom, wear that. And it's I just really urge you parents, family members, seek out groups, autistic groups, neurodiverse groups. There's so many. Oh my God. It's a really good book called Neurotribe. Google it, look at it, find it on Amazon, wherever, other shops, and buy it and read it, because it really explains so well, I think, about neurodiversity and the history of autism and the damaging things that have been done, said, that has got us to where we are today. And thank God we are now in a time where we have groups and organisations that are, changing things. They're changing policies in government, and we are getting acts and, human rights acts and all sorts of things going on that like all of the minority groups, whether in history, whether you were, whether it be because you were of a different colour skin, you were gay, or whatever, sets of groups of people of whether you're a tribe, and in history whether you've been tried to have your beliefs torn up away and told that the way you're behaving is wrong on mass, whatever it's been over history, we're learning and evolving. And now it's the time of the autistic communities, and the autistic communities are now beginning to stand up. Those that were children then are now standing up and saying, hang on a minute here. Like, has anybody asked us how we're feeling? Has anybody asked our opinion? Well, here it is. And I suggest that you pull your ears back and you have a good old listen, because it does, I think, as a parent to an autistic child, it really does give you a deeper insight into the concept of neurodiversity. I mean, maybe none of us have ever thought about this before, but we're all uniquely different. All of us are involved and included in this neurodiverse human existence. It's not just autistic people. And, we're all low functioning, and we're all high functioning, medium functioning, and a little bit more than that functioning at all different times of our lives and days. And to just segregate a particular group of people and slap all these labels all over them like it's just okay, and not give a mind or care for how that particular person may feel about that label. I feel it's important that we kind of like step out of that now and learn to listen and to accept that if you are that person being spoken about, how you will start to view yourself. And I think every single one of us on the planet has had a time when we've felt judged, misunderstood, different, and it doesn't feel very nice. Nobody likes that feeling, even if you rise above it in the end and you fight your way through it. Nobody likes that. So if you're a person that's autistic and you're at home and your parents are speaking about you in a negative way, and then you go out to school or nursery or college, and your teachers and your peers and the professionals are speaking about autism in a negative way, and then you go on the internet and you'll watch adverts and stuff from Autism Speaks about how negative and how soul destroying and how awful autism is, just how devastating it is from their perspective. If you're that autistic person and that's all you're hearing, can you imagine how damaging that could be to your heart, to your soul, to your self-image, to the way that how would you be able to thrive and feel valid and purposeful in this world, in this beautiful world that we live? So that's a lot for anybody to deal with. And the reality of that is that it does create self-loathing in people, and it does create depression, which is a real thing, and again can be missed completely if you're autistic, because if you're deemed as low functioning or even if you're deemed as high functioning, it's almost like depression can't touch an autistic person because they're autistic. And it's like, no, that's not true. Like we all hear and we all are affected by the things that are said about us and how we are viewed around society and family members, and it will affect us all regardless of your condition. It matters not. So please, and suicidal thoughts, suicidal acts, because autistic people are feeling they've got nowhere to go, nobody understands, nobody wants them around, or groups of people don't want them around. It really needs to stop. We need to start thinking about how we talk about people. And to extend that, if you are around other people and you hear them speaking negatively or disrespectfully about a person in front of them or not even in front of them, it doesn't matter. And if you're in a school or you're a support worker or a teacher or a psychologist or a speech and language therapist or an occupational therapist, a social worker, whatever you are, and you hear other people speaking negatively and judgmentally and incorrectly about an autistic person that you know, or just generally, the changes can be made when we educate each other and we help each other along and we say, hey, that's not really how it is, and I really feel uncomfortable with you saying that. It's rude and it's offensive, and explain why. I urge that you do that. Don't just accept it. If it feels uncomfortable in your heart, then that means it's going to feel doubly uncomfortable in the autistic person's heart. Be mindful, be kind. On my Facebook group, I share lots of articles written by neurodiverse people of all, my goodness me, and the articles and pieces that are written are so important and have taught me so much. And my Facebook group, I've got my own personal Facebook Bell Bearaway, and I also have my Facebook group which is called Dazlius, 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 Learning the Language of Autism. And I share the articles that I read and that are given to me through Facebook groups of autism inclusivity, especially. I urge that you find these groups and you have a little look and just have a good old read, and it really does help you open your mind and go, oh my God, yes, of course, all behaviour is communication. So always remember that when your child or person that you're caring for, wherever that setting may be, is behaving in a way that may be deemed inappropriate. That's another one. It's like inappropriate behaviour, challenging behaviour. It's like inappropriate to who? It might be inappropriate to you, but it certainly obviously isn't inappropriate to the person that's behaving in that way. It means something. Find out what it means. Find out what they're saying. I'm not saying it's easy. My son is a nonverbal communicator and he has a communication aid. Does he want to use it? Not really. Not really. Do I want him to use it? Yeah, of course I do. Make my life easier, wouldn't it? But I respect and honour his decisions, and it's there. We give him the opportunities. So we keep on trying other ways, and we keep using the ways that he likes to communicate with. And yeah, we misunderstand each other sometimes, but then we all do anyway. What I do get is honesty. I get so much honesty, and that's a really good place to start. So really that's all I want to say on the matter, really, because it's more of a plea, and a suggestion to find as many groups as you can that are neurodiverse, that welcome all, neurotypical parents, autistic people, neurodiverse people with all manner of different labels, and we're all there together and we're all figuring each other out and we're all trying to understand each other and create a more harmonious, happy existence for us all. We all belong, we all matter, and we all have something to say. So get out there, get Googling, get looking, get on these Facebook groups, and just literally Google, Facebook groups run by autistic people, neurodiverse groups, and there's many, but autism inclusivity, I'm enjoying. Yeah, there's some arguments on there, and there's some debates, and there's some this and that, because there's two different mindsets of autistic brains and non-autistic brains and all other genres of things coming in, and it means we have to take the time to really explain exactly it is what we mean, what we say. It's not, it's like some people, it's like, it's not what they say, it's what they mean. And we're not always clear in, and what someone else would interpret as what that you mean may not be what you mean at all. And I found that being on this particular group and other groups like it, that it really challenges you to explain in detail exactly, gives clarity to exactly what you mean and why you say what you say. And it just helps an awful lot. So I'm just trying to guide people into looking at things that doesn't mean they're wasting their time, and then finding loads of negative stuff and then thinking that's it, and then having to dig themselves out of that and then find these more positive groups and are more clearer and understanding. So yeah, mindful of the language that we use around people who are deemed and judged and labelled with so many sweeping statements. Be kind, be loving. Next week, I'm going to be talking about just a few little tips on doctor's appointments and such, and how just a few little ways we could perhaps try and make it a bit easier for ourselves, for our children, which then makes it easier for the parent. So I'm going to be talking about that. Okay, thank you. Subscribe, and then you will get alerts, which will make it easier for you guys to hear these videos if you're interested. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.